up, people? I am Christ, I am disciple, and we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. But before we get there, all praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God come first. And so I'm going to read a piece of scripture for you guys because, I'm scripture boy a little bit. I'm going to hit y'all with a piece of scripture coming from 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 1 10. All right, let's get into it. Saul now urged his servants and his son Jonathan to assassinate David. But Jonathan, because of his close friendship with David, told David what his father was planning. Tomorrow morning, he warned him, he must find a hiding place out in the fields. I'll ask my father to go out there with me, and I'll talk to him about you. Then I'll tell you everything I can find out. The next morning, Jonathan spoke with his father about David, saying many good things about him. Please don't sin against David, Jonathan pleaded. He's never done anything to harm you. He's always helped you in any way he could. Have you forgotten about the time he risked his life to kill the Philistine giant and how God brought a great victory to Israel as a result? You were certainly happy about it. Then, why should you murder an innocent man like David? There's no reason for it at all. So Saul listened to Jonathan and vowed, as surely as the Lord lives, David will not be killed. Afterward, Jonathan called David and told him what had happened. Then he took David to see Saul, and everything was as it had been before. War broke out shortly after, and David led his troops against the Philistines. He attacked them with such fury that they all ran away. But one day, Saul was sitting in his home. The tormenting spirit from God suddenly came upon him. As David played his harp for the king, Saul hurled his spear at David in an attempt to kill him. But David dodged out of the way and escaped into the night, leaving the spear stuck in the wall. 1 Samuel chapter 19, verses 1 to 10. There is in Hollywood, by the oligarchs that run Hollywood, a spiteful hate for Zack Snyder. As you know, this stream, the name of it is Restore the SnyderVerse, is very strong after Gunn's Superman reveal. We're going to talk about much more than that. First of all, before I go on further, I am Christ, I am disciple. Sorry, my bad. What you need is my other channel. I'm Christ, I am disciple. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and you can donate via PayPal. The link is in the chat as well as the description. Now, Restore the SnyderVerse has become a big thing. Right now, if you look, Twitter, there's a couple things trending. Right now, we've got the SnyderVerse trending right there. We also got James Gunn trending right now. But the SnyderVerse has been trending for God knows how long. It's been trending in some form or the other. I think yesterday it was Henry Cavill's Superman, Restore the SnyderVerse, and the SnyderVerse on Netflix was trending throughout yesterday. It was trending. The day before, we had Henry Cavill and Restore the Snyderverse were trending. We've had Zack Snyder trending. We've had Rebel Moon trending. Anything that's associated with Zack Snyder has been trending nonstop every single day. So in some form or some version, constantly seeing Restore the Snyderverse. But particularly yesterday, this was revealed on Twitter. I'm on Twitter right now. Okay, DC revealed this. Get ready. Superman. Looks like is it July 11, 2025, or is it November 7th, 2025? I'm not too sure. Anyway, this is the picture. Let's get a look at it. Let's get a closer look at it, right? So this is the picture here. Now, a lot of people were disappointed with that picture, but I'm going to break down to you guys what it's saying. I want to go into that picture a little bit because actually James Gunn's trying to say something. All right, and I'm going to help out all the gun fans out there. I'm going to help out all the gun fans out there in terms of what James Gunn is saying here. All right, so I'm going to help you guys out. So if you guys look at the picture, in the foreground, you have Superman. His suit is kind of dirty. It's dirty because he's busy doing a lot of work. He's doing a lot of things, saving a lot of people. His pants are cleaner. He's got that little red trunks right there. And he's pulling up his bootstrap. He's pulling his boots up. You know, people say, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Well, here is the actual literalization of that, right? Now, he's got the traditional Superman suit on. It's, you know, kind of rumpled and stuff, and it's kind of messy because he's been busy working hard. It's overtime almost. See a beam either blasting from this thing or it's blasting this thing, holding it back. Maybe the rest of the league right now is taking on this drama that's going on here. And Superman is getting ready to go back out there. You look at him, he has a serious look on his face as he's pulling up his bootstraps to go out for work. The impression I'm getting from James Gunn as Superman is sitting down on a chair, mind you, as he's pulling up his bootstraps, the impression I'm getting is a worn out Superman. He's young, but he's worn out already, constantly committed to trying to save the world time and time again. And you can see right now he's in the middle of, while all this is going on in the background, he's kind of absorbed in himself almost. Right? You can see the pain expression on his face as he's pulling up his bootstraps. Basically, James Gunn is painting a picture that this Superman story is going to be one in which Superman is going to be overwhelmed by the challenges he has. And even though the Justice League is there, he has his own concerns, his own problems, his own worries. So James Gunn's trying to give you a broken Superman. He's trying to give you, because that's what James Gunn does best, a flawed character. Whereas people assumed that Superman was flawed with the Zack Snyder presentation, Gunn's like, you know what? I'm going to actually go all out with that. I'm going to actually make a flawed Superman, a Superman who's been at it, kind of worn, battle worn in his own way. He's trying to do that there. And a Superman who's really, you know, he's trying his best, but it's not enough, even though he has the Justice League behind him, trying to hold it down as well. So this is the picture that James Gunn is trying to create here. And that shocked all the Superman purists. And that also shocked all of the Snyder fans out there. And a lot of them had negative things to say about this portrait. All right. So gun fans, you know, you see it all here. So here is, for example, Carlos, who's on Twitter. Shout out to Carlos. He says, "What cosplay bullshit is this?" Because James Gunn, he tried to keep those lines on Superman stuff, you know, the New 52 kind of look, kind of with the with the trunks on as well. And you can see, Superman's cape is kind of draped down. It does look cheap. It does remind me of the CW, the effects and everything. But by and large, the story here is telling a story here. And this is how, to be honest with you, this is how James Gunn feels. He's trying to do something good, but he's getting beat down on top of it. So this is not just Superman. This is James Gunn and how he feels right now. Okay. He feels like this is becoming a chore. There's no joy in it. So this is a joyless Superman. So a lot of people right now, and it's kind of retrospective. So like I said before, the power in Superman is in the story being told of Superman. All right. That's why I loved Henry Cavill's Superman. Okay. Their Superman feels like he's been dragged into the mud. Does he feel regal? Do you feel a presence of regality? Not necessarily, but it looks like he's been dragged into the mud. This is the Superman we're getting. Even though his boots are really clean and shiny and everything's very colorful, right? James. My point being, that is what James Gunn is trying to push for. He's trying to push for a Superman who been Superman, but he's been kind of battle worn and kind of dragged into the mud, and he's just constantly having to save the world, constantly have to go at it. And it's not maybe this is not even his worry. His worry may be something else. He looks like he's preoccupied with something else that's bothering him, right? But the point is, he's not happy. He's not the beaming, smiling Superman you're looking for, which could work in his favor or it could backfire on him, right? But as it is right now, that's the story being told here. Okay? And it's getting traction. It may get negative traction, but it's getting traction. All right, so we have some Snyder fans here. Restore the SnyderVerse. And that sort of started on Twitter, this big Restore the SnyderVerse burst that came out. A lot of now people are calling it flops. The time is now to restore the SnyderVerse. Restore the SnyderVerse people came out and said it's too dark, it needs more hope, and literally brightened up everything. It's funny as hell. So a lot of Snyder fans. Actually, this is the same Snyder fan over and over again. This Snyder fan is talking about Henry Cavill being trending now. It's suddenly Henry Cavill's trending. So all of these are SnyderVerse fans. Let's see if we can find somebody who's not a SnyderVerse fan in here, okay? Nova says, I thought this was cosplaying. No, thank you. This is my Superman. Maybe this one. EAC says Cavill will never get topped. Not shocked at how this looks. Okay, so these are all Snyder fans. I even said not impressed. But these are all Snyder fans coming in here. So M says, why is he slowly putting on his boots when Metropolis is under attack? M. Let me see who M is. Fan account loves pro wrestling, comic books, heavy metal, and Godzilla. Retweets don't necessarily mean endorsements. Analysis over apathy. Let's look at Godzilla versus Kong. This is not necessarily a Snyder fan. Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. Just the shadow. Just more evidence that Blade is likely getting pushed back to 2026. Here's some wrestling. Yeah, M looks like somebody who's not a Snyder fan. Yeah, he's definitely not a Snyder fan. Maria May stop Tiffany Stratton's IG at the backlash. Yeah, this guy's not a Snyder fan at all. It's kind of cool. Likes wrestling. Yeah. I don't know who this guy is, but he's not a Snyder fan. So that's M. So why is he slowly putting on his boots when Metropolis is under attack? Well, again, I guess the rest of the league is there, M. So they're probably the ones right now either fighting against this. It looks like this beam is hitting this, whatever this thing is. Could be Brainiac's thing, or I don't even know what the hell that is. But you can see he's not happy and he's putting on his boots. Renuzu says, good Lord, what's happening out there? Missed opportunity. The only worthy Superman. Can't wait for this. Can't wait for the making of this Superman. That's Henry Cavill. They used the costume department from the CW show. Lol. Yeah, it's kind of more CW-ish, as you can see. J House says, bring it. Love what Snyder did, and I look forward to the new chapter with David and Gunn. This toxicity is crazy. I was iffy about Pattinson's first look as Batman, but the suit has grown on me over time. People need to give this a chance. So J House is saying they need to give it a chance. I mean, here's what I'll say about this, okay? Here's what I'll say about this, okay? To be honest with you guys, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I hope that James Gunn could get a really good story out of this, right? James Gunn is good with flawed characters, characters that kind of straddle the line between being good and bad. So this is Gunn's take on it. And I think depending on how he approaches it, it could work for him, right? Now, the thing about it is, I'll be honest with you, Gunn trying to do this, understand something, okay? And Gunn actually provoked a reaction that Zack Snyder usually does. Zack Snyder does the same thing. People misunderstand the stuff that he's putting out a lot of times because they're caught up in tropes. This is what I think a trope should be, right? So James Gunn here putting this out, he's actually telling you what the tone of the movie would be. Like, this is a movie in which Superman's not going to be that icon that you guys think he's going to be. Like, he pretty much is making that statement. And what James Gunn pretty much did, which I think is, again, good, is you guys want the trunks? Okay, I'll give you the trunks. You want the boots? Okay, I'll give you the boots. You want this? You want that? You want the other? Okay, I'll give you that. He's going to give you, and this is an approach that Zack Snyder also does. He's going to give you what you want. But he's not going to make you feel good because you got what you want. He provokes that reaction. He makes you have a second take. Now, I don't know exactly if James Gunn is going to go to the level that Zack Snyder goes. Like, for example, everything that Zack does has a purpose behind it. You know what I mean? Whereas here, James Gunn may not go that deep. Zack's all into the details. But what I like about what James Gunn is doing here is, to be honest with you, he's challenging everybody. Like, people are dismissing this but really he's challenging everybody. So kind of like what Ryan Garcia did in boxing. Have people underestimate what you're doing, and then when you pop the story, it has that effect, that wow effect. So I think that's what James Gunn is trying to do right now with a tremendously popular character who only 2 directors in the history of this character when it comes to movies have been successful with him, right? And that's Zack Snyder and Richard Donner. They're the only 2 directors who have been successful with this character. So James Gunn has an uphill battle when it comes to directing this. But in addition, there have only been 2 actors who've pulled off this Superman and done it well. And that's Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve. So if James Gunn could somehow pull this off, he will be the 3rd director, and the actor would be the 3rd Superman to pull it off. And when I say pull it off, I don't care about critical reception and all that shit. The movie just needs to make money. Any kind of money, but just got to make money. Okay? Now, people don't know that Superman as a character is not the easiest thing to pull off. Okay? It's extremely difficult to pull off because it straddles a certain line. Like the leeway you have with Superman is not that much. It straddles a certain line. Zach was clever enough to pull that off, and this is coming off of box office flop. Okay. Now, the last Superman movie we saw was a box office. Well, it wasn't a Superman movie, but a movie where Superman was inside of it. And I'm talking about Henry Cavill's Superman. But if you just say Superman inside of it, it was a flop, which was The Flash. And The Flash Super featured Supergirl, it featured all kinds of versions of Superman, right? And it flopped. So Gunn has that going against him as well. He's got to overcome the image of Superman being a flop. Zack Snyder came off of Superman Returns, which was also a flop. Excellent director Bryan Singer, and he couldn't pull off Superman. And a series of flops before that. We had, Superman 4, which was a flop, Superman 3, which was a flop. We had Supergirl, which was a flop. So it was a series of flops of Superman, and then Zack somehow got it over the hill with Man of Steel. So after Man of Steel, okay, so we had a Superman movie in which it was not a flop, but it never really went into theaters, and Warner Brothers banned it from going into theaters, and that's on them. They're stupid. They didn't want money, which was Zack Snyder's Justice League, which was the third episode of Superman in the trilogy of Superman so far. It's supposed to be 5 episodes of Superman. So you're supposed to have Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Zack Snyder's Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, and Zack Snyder's Justice League 3. And even though it says Zack Snyder's Justice League 3, it's always based around Superman. But unfortunately, we've not gotten those 2 sequels. Okay. Now, James Gunn's Superman story involves the Justice League. So the Justice League is actually present in this world here where we're looking at Superman as he's pulling up his boot. And he's kind of messy, which shows that he's been in action. And he's probably just trying to take a break, pause, get some new gear back together, and then get back out there. Okay? So that's the picture that you're seeing there. And a lot of people, are going to be feeling all kinds of ways about this. But the truth is that this picture is not bad. Okay. It's not great, but it's not bad. The craftsmanship, the time taken to do this picture and what this picture represents. It could be a dream that Superman's in. We don't know what this is because you don't know. It kind of feels surreal. So I'm not sure exactly what this picture is about. But what I can tell you is from what I see of the picture, okay, it's much deeper than a lot of people are dismissing it to be. So that's how I feel about that. I was looking at different people who are people talking about Henry Cavill. Veggie says Superman has not had a good live action movie in 44 years. Time to end the streak. I hope this movie is spectacular. So there you go. Veggie, who's a guy, I guess he's a gun fan or something, is saying that. Now, they don't know if that will be the case with this movie. Me personally, the aesthetics don't really make it. The aesthetics, everybody's been talking about the aesthetics. The aesthetics obviously don't do it for me, right? But I can see that they're trying to build off of Tyler Hoechlin's Superman and kind of carry that version of Superman onto the big screen. Seeing they had Superman and Lois, and that was a very successful CW television series. I guess they're trying to take that vibe, kind of like how Smallville was a precursor to Man of Steel. Now they're taking Superman and Lois and using it as a precursor to this movie, So it's kind of familiar to some people. So I think that's the whole idea behind this. Veggie feels, he's trying to be very hopeful. He's kind of disrespecting Man of Steel and Batman v Superman and Zack Snyder's Justice League by saying, you haven't had a good live action version of Superman in 44 years, which, okay, if that's how he feels, that's how he feels. Everybody's entitled to their feelings. I can't bash him for that. But what I would say is that whatever they're trying to present here, it's not going to be what everybody's looking for. So people are looking for like a hopeful Superman. They're looking for like bright sunny days and stuff like that. That's not what James Gunn is conveying right here. Superman is not bright and sunny. He's not smiling. He's not happy go lucky. The film itself doesn't feel, this particular picture doesn't feel like a clown contest, humor. And I know it has humor in it. I know it has a lot of humor in it. But I think that he's focusing on a much more emotional, somber moment, reflective moment, as Superman's putting on his boots. It's cliche putting on his boots, but whatever. My point is, this is what he's portraying here, which I gotta give him props for that. I gotta give James Gunn props for that. And a lot of y'all are gonna say, "What the hell is wrong with you, Anderson? Christ I am disciple." But I'm gonna say, no, I have to give him props for that. I'm not a hater like that. Okay, I think that is not bad. Okay, is it? Do I get the feeling that I got with the first Henry Cavill when he was smashed into the the bank vault? Do I get that impact or that feeling? No. Okay, this doesn't do it. But I like to ruminate on things. I like to, if I'm going to watch something or I'm going to look at something, I like to look at it for what it is. I like to give it its own shot. This is its own story. This is not Cavill's story. This is not a Superman story on Man of Steel or one of those things. It's not that. It's its own thing. So I want to judge it fairly as a story on its own thing. And this is what I see. Okay. So, I'm not, again, if anybody knows me, this doesn't stimulate interest for me in Superman Legacy. It doesn't, right? And I'm not trying to be, again, I'm not trying to be somebody who's a hater or anything like that. It's not that. It's just that this is not my thing. Okay? This doesn't get me, oh man, I really want to check out DC. This is, yeah, look at that. And the Snyder fans should be really interested in this because look, he's broken and he's kind of broken down and he's kind of like, he's kind of like, he's kind of, broken and he's kind of torn and he's kind of broken down and he's kind of preoccupied and he looks like he's kind of at the end of himself, kind of like Batman, right? And that would get the Snyder fans, everybody would think, but the thing about that is that purpose. If a story is good, it's good. Period. A story has to have purpose or relevance. What do I mean by this? So, for example, if I'm going to tell a story to someone, a child, an adult, whoever, I have to be saying something. And for the Gunn fans who missed it because they were expecting something else from James Gunn, you got to understand that James Gunn is trying to get you emotionally. That's his attempt, emotionally, to connect with Superman in a different way. He wants you to understand, because James Gunn doesn't believe in superheroes like that. He wants you to believe in yourself. He doesn't want you to believe in the superheroes. He doesn't want you attached. He's just like Zack Snyder in that respect. He has a more darker way of viewing superheroes, actually, than Zack does, in that he's very skeptical of superheroes or any kind of hero. Now, Zack's the same way in that respect to some degree, but Zack wants you to understand superheroes and why we even came to have superheroes. And then he tries to show you how an average person or person could be that. Whereas James Gunn is coming from a different perspective of these standards and values you put on these people are so immense that they're overwhelming. And James Gunn comes from the other approach, which says that I don't believe. Hold on one second. Okay. James Gunn comes from the perspective that I don't believe people could be that good. I don't believe that people get broke. They're human beings. They can be broken. They can have values that are inconsistent. They can mess up. So he's coming from this point now where Superman's burdened with this overwhelming difficulty of having to try to take care of a world. That's what he's trying to show there. TNF Game says this looks off. He's talking about we don't even know what the fuck this is, though. We don't know what this is. This is something. This is blasting this thing here, and whatever this is countering it. You know what I mean? So we don't even know what that is. I'm saying. But on its own, with its own story, you have to judge a movie not based on previous things or anything like that. You have to judge the movie and what it's telling you. So we had a lot of responses. Some people said DC is dead, and indeed DC is dead. Currently, DC is dead. Nothing's making any money in DC, so that's true. So that's like a whole bunch of Henry Cavill stuff. People vomiting. A guy said, "Good luck." A lot of people are laughing. Guy's talking about his sleeves and all that stuff. Jason Elliott photograph says, "What is this trash? Are you kidding me? This is like a Godline cosplay." People just going in on this dude. Even devout James Gunn fans, some of them was like, "What's going on here, man?" I Am Batman says, "James Gunn setting a new era. Thanks, James Gunn. We believe in you." At least that guy said that. This brown guy says, "Why doesn't it look like the suit doesn't fit him? Why does that thing out of the window look like a bad generated AI thing from 2 years ago? James Gunn is destroying Superman, honestly." So people had strong feelings about that. All right. But what happened after that was just remarkable. We had about 2 days of trending where Restore the SnyderVerse and Henry Cavill's Superman was on display for 2 days straight. Okay, 2 days straight. We had Restore the SnyderVerse, and it was just popping up everywhere. And Henry Cavill's Superman. I was a part of that. And that reaction came as a result of this picture. Now, like I said before, I don't think a lot of people really paid much attention. I think people had expectations that James Gunn would come with this bright, flowery-looking Superman, young guy. They didn't expect this picture, not in any way, shape, or form. And instead of trying to understand what the picture's saying, a lot of people just reacted, including myself. And as a result of that, we had this hashtag Restore the SnyderVerse came back on the scene. We had to sell SnyderVerse to Netflix, which is still, I think, currently still out there, right? It's still on the scene out there, which is quite remarkable. So if you look on the side here, right now trending, literally trending right now, is the SnyderVerse. It's freaking crazy. Like, this has been going on for quite a while. And the SnyderVerse is, again, one of the top things. Next to it is Eyes on Rafa. So we've had the SnyderVerse, and then we have Rafa. Let me see what else we got here. Can I show more? I can't. Okay, fine. So it's just ridiculous what's going on right now. Okay, other than Rafa, we got the SnyderVerse going. That's what I'm telling you guys, man. It's been crazy, and I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about that phenomenon that's happening right now. And so let me get into that. Let me get into that. So oh no. Yeah. So I want to show you guys something I said. And you guys know I'm a pro free Palestine. I'm totally into that, right? This is the stream. You guys didn't check out the stream yet. Okay. On Twitter, that is. Okay, so let me see if I can find it here. Okay. All right, let me right. So here I even said it on Twitter. Gunn is going for a messier Superman, a broken Superman, a worn out Superman who doesn't care as much. This is an attempt at that. He's putting on his boots, playing pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and there's always something to save, always a crisis. You see? So I kind of that's why I saw it with that. But there's something else I want to show you guys if I can find yeah. All right. So this here will lead me to segue that I need to go into. So, regardless of what the industry says about Zack Snyder, no matter how many critics pan his stuff and try and say, shut up, don't say anything, quiet yourself, Zack Snyder's been doing extremely well by the people, by the fans, by the audience, right? And when people say, why is James Gunn not having the impact that Zack Snyder's having on DC, I'll explain to you why. I always told people Gunn is not a good fit for DC. What I mean by that is that his first DC movie that he did, it flopped, right? Which was The Suicide Squad. Now, that same year, we had a lot of hits. So telling me that COVID had something to do with that, that makes no sense. You had several horror movies that did well. You also had Godzilla versus Kong that same year. You had several Marvel movies. You had Spider-Man, No Way Home that did exceptionally well. You had uh, Shanghai, right? Shanghai that did exceptionally well. You had Candyman Can that did exceptional. I mean, just had a bunch of movies. I think I responded to some guy there, but all you guys need to do is just tap into it. So it wasn't the success of James Gunn's Suicide Squad wasn't because the failure, sorry, of his movie wasn't because he was it was COVID. No, people went, didn't matter if it was COVID or not. People went out to see Godzilla versus Kong. People went out to see Shanghai. People went out to see Spider-Man No Way Home. People went out to see what's that? It's coming to me, but it's going away. But anyway, there were several movies that went into cinemas and made money. All right. If I'm not mistaken, also, Universal put out Fast and Furious 9, I think, came out that year as well. That could have been the following year. My point anyway is that wasn't the reason, right? So he failed with the Suicide Squad, which was like a 250 million dollar movie. I think it made like over $100 million loss for Warner Brothers Pictures. Okay, he was elevated to co-CEO of DC Studios, and the next 5 DC movies all flopped, right, under his lead. And I include Black Adam there with them, even though James Gunn had minimal input into Black Adam. And now you guys expect him to do exceptionally well with the Superman movie. I mean, he's got a track record, ladies and gentlemen. It's not good when it comes to DC. And it's just what it is. You know what I mean? But going into it anyway, Zack Snyder has always been a perfect fit for DC, but because of APAC-funded, CIA-infiltrated oligarchy in Hollywood who don't like his messaging, which empowers and frees people instead of seducing them, they always, the narrative is always he's not a good director. They try to discredit the messages that he gives in his movies. And to that point, we see here that one writer compares Gaza, the Empire, and his Rebel Moon movies, which is Charles Mudede, uh, realizing the significance and the timing of his Rebel Moon, his Rebel verse, what it means when Hollywood films make the insurgents the good guys. So you can go ahead and check out that article. Actually, I have the article right there, so you can actually check it out in a second, which is this article here, which you guys can't see. I'm going to try and just hold on a second. I'm trying to put it up here in a second. Okay, so you guys should be seeing this article right now. And it's very interesting what Mudede has to say about it, okay? On December 22nd, as Israel flattened Gaza with powerful bombs, Netflix released the space opera Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. Zack Snyder, 300, Man of Steel, Justice League, and so on, directed this mostly entertaining studio movie, which cost $166 million to make and features Anthony Hopkins as the voice of a pacified robot, Jimmy the Robot, a 21st century CPBO. The golden Star Wars droid was voiced by another British actor, Anthony Daniels. The connection between Jimmy the Robot and C-3PO is not singular. Rebel Moon has structurally and thematically a lot in common with the original Star Wars trilogy. Both have an empire at war with rebels. In both, the Empire's army, stormtroopers in the former, Imperium in the latter, oppress powerless farmers and other ordinary space people. And most telling of all, we find the racial composition of the Empire to be homogeneous, very white, and that of the rebels to be heterogeneous. Indeed, the leaders of the rebellion in Snyder's epic are black: Darian Bloodaxe, Ray Fisher, and Devra, Cleopatra Coleman. Furthermore, the star of the film, future leader of the rebellion, Cora, is Algerian, Sofia Boutella. True, Cora was once an Imperium soldier, but Snyder made the main villain, an Imperial Admiral, Atticus Noel, Ed Skrein, look like the pale commander of the Galactic Empire's planet-destroying Death Star, Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing. Skrein and Tarkin are like Jimmy the Robot and C-3PO, played by Brits. But those who watched Star Wars in the 1970s found it hard to miss the connection between the Galactic Empire and the American Empire, and particularly its failed war with the poor people of Vietnam. The latter clearly resembled the Rebel Alliance in that far, far away galaxy. But what to make of Rebel Moon? In general, Hollywood films that identify evil power with the Empire and good power with insurgents. So that is his thing. James Cameron, if you think about it, the good guys in Star Wars are the rebels. They're using asymmetric warfare against a highly organized empire. I think we got these guys terrorists. We call these guys terrorists today. We call them Mujahideen. We call them Al-Qaeda. George Lucas. When I did it, they were called Viet Cong. George Lucas was supposed to direct Apocalypse Now, which is based on Joseph Conrad's novel Heart of Darkness. In the latter, Empire is Belgium. In the former, it's the United States. And this connection between European imperialism and American empire, as Sam Gindin and Leo Panitchich call it in their masterful The Making of Global Capitalism, the Political Economy of American Empire, is explicit in one of the most famous deleted scenes in the history of cinema, the French plantation scene. After World War II, America assumed the global scale operations of an empire. This fact is also explicit in the scene that was never shot but was in the screenplay for Catherine Bigelow's The Hurt Locker. What we see in the film are a bunch of buffoons led by Ralph Fiennes, the head of the private army, as what remains of Britain's control of Iraq and its oil. But in the script by Mike Bohl, we see the British imperialism is very much central to and continued by American militarism. There's nothing of this buffoonery we see on the screen. There's instead the very serious business of state power and contracts. International Ambassador's Office Ambassador Sir Auckland Gates, the epitome of the old-style British Foreign Service, elegant, self-assured, a gentleman adventurer in Savile Row, hoping to involve the world, certain he'll profit in the attempt. He's holding court with a group of executives. The executives are seated around a conference table under the ambassador's sway. There's a model of a British petroleum gas station, convenience store in English and in Arabic in the center of the table. Basically, this is from the writing, the script of the movie. And what he's trying to show is that, and to this day, the imperialists, they rape my country of most of its resources in oil. Basically, they give us a pittance, what we call small amounts of royalties, while they collect most of the money for having done the um, discovery of the oil and harvesting of it. They take it back to their country. They make products from it and sell it back to us. So what I'm saying is they exploit. The empire exploits, and it's been exploiting Africa. It's been exploiting India. It's been exploiting China. They couldn't exploit Russia because Russia's taken over by the Russians. There are czars in charge of Russia, but yet they say Russia is exploiting Ukraine when these people have been doing this all the time to every single nation they have under their charge. Okay? And nobody talks about it. And right now, Israel, the brazenness of Israel to be ethnic cleansing, to be oppressing a peoples, right? And the major media, the major imperial powers and westernized powers are not saying much about that. It's ridiculous. This should be inflammatory. In Rebel Moon, the Imperial occupies a rural area on the moon of Velt. The Empire wants all the food of the farmers who live in peace with the rhythms of nature. The exploitation is that raw. But this is nothing surprising, right? You guys have seen them do the same thing to lots of civilizations. The Native Americans, they took everything. The Native Americans have a little space, a little confines, a little concentration camp, in small little sections of the United States of America, right? We've seen this happen again and again and again in the Caribbean. The native peoples, the Tainos, were killed out, and then they were ethnically cleansed out of these areas by Spain, by France, by Britain. Okay, we've seen this over and over and over again. We've seen ethnic cleansing in Africa, again, facilitated and sabotaged by the Germans, the French. Okay. So, I mean, this is nothing new, right? So Zack Snyder decides to speak on this in Rebel Moon, as George Lucas did, but he's not holding any bars back. Let's continue. The exploitation is that raw. What is left to be done but revolt against the empire, which calls home the mother world? One of the few interesting twists to this form of Hollywood narrative. Even more curious are the imperial soldiers based on Velt. They seem to speak Afrikaans English, as if to say Velt is sort of like a whitened version of South Africa. Indeed, I heard one of them say Futski. Why is this connection interesting? Only one has to watch Neil Blomkamp's Elysium to hit upon a plausible answer. The high-tech merchants in that film are Afrikaners. What is their key gripe? Why do they hate Americans' elite, represented by Defense Secretary Jessica Delacourt, so much? Because it's never really done the dirty work of empire. The Boers had to oppress, polish, kill Black Africans to keep the system going, to keep the profits flowing towards Elysium. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, what we call right now the settlers, they're doing the dirty work. The IDF is doing the dirty work. Okay? So that, the so-called leftist Israelis are benefiting off the fruits of the dirty work that the settlers and the IDF are doing to kill off the Palestinians. And if they become complicit in this, and it's very easy, just be silent, don't say anything, then the raping, the stealing of the land, the ethnic cleansing, the genocide of peoples, they will reap the benefits of all of that. So they'll be able to drive on their highways and go to their homes and carry on normal life, not understanding that the settlers and the IDF and the regime viciously killed off a whole generation. Do we to this day talk about how how the Native Americans around have been wronged by the Spanish, by the English, by the French, by the Americans. We don't do that, but we reap the benefits off their backs. And that's the hypocrisy of the situation. We reap the benefits off the backs of slaves. And that's the hypocrisy of the situation. Leroy Kong, how you doing, my brother? Hello to you. Great live. James Gunn will fail. Not supporting any of his DC. Great live. Rebel Moon is a masterpiece. Okay. So I say all of this to say that, you know, what's happening in Gaza, Zack Snyder is kind of commenting on it in real time. Let me go through a little bit more of this because I want you guys to understand why Zack is hated in Hollywood. Hollywood is made up of some Jews. Some Jews have a strong Israeli affiliation, and some of the Jews and some of the CIA are Zionist. They're Zionist. A Zionist doesn't have to be a Jew. It's a philosophy, a nationalistic philosophy. But these Zionists have they have a lot of sway in Hollywood. They have a lot of sway in almost any area of entertainment and in politics. Okay, you guys may have heard of APAC, which is the association. APAC is, and anyways, an Israeli, an Israeli. Fuck, man, the words are just fading off my mind. I totally blanked out here. It's an Israeli. These people fund a lot of things, right? They lobby, right? It's an Israeli lobbying group. There are several Israeli lobbying groups, which always want governments to have pro-Israel initiatives and for Israel to be seen in a certain light. And it's influenced in your entertainment industry, particularly in film and media, which is why a lot of things seem biblical when storytelling is told. And one of the important things is that the narrative of how the CIA looks, how the CIA is perceived, how Israel looks, and how Israel is perceived. It's very important that certain things, such as what Israel is doing in Palestine, what they've been doing for the last 75 years in Palestine, is not fully shown to the world. Because if the world knew, this wouldn't take any time for people to set the record straight. But they've been able to successfully conceal this because they've been controlling media, all the dissemination bodies. And what they're doing now is, because things have gotten so bad and Israel's reputation in the world is such trash right now, they're trying to censor people. So they're trying to censor my channel. They try to censor, Lord Kojay's channel, and people who are speaking about this. But now it's reached its tipping point, so that universities, schools, elementary schools, people in general, just public protests, are all protesting. It's a tremendous tsunami that's happening here. It's kind of like it's like a tsunami of just people now are just saying this is wrong, and people are coming down. Now there was other protests back, I think in 2000, around the time when Barack Obama was in power, and then 2014. There was this big thing. There was the Arab Spring and all of that, but there was also all these people talking about freeing Palestine. And right, to the credit of Barack Obama, he had been trying to have that happen. Okay, he encouraged the discourse and the discussion that was happening, and then this happened, and now more than ever, everybody gets the clip. I didn't know about what was happening with Israel and Palestine for many, many years, right? And it's only now it's really gotten my central focus and my attention. I have not let it go, and I think a lot of people are not going to let this go. And also, a lot of people are seeing how oppressive the response is to people who are striking and protesting over this. It started off at Columbia University. It's now global in terms of universities and educational places. And it's going to only get stronger and stronger and stronger because a lot of people are now going to be pushing for sanctions on Israel. They're going to be pushing for any company affiliated with Israel to stop their connections with Israel and stop supplying them money and funding. And particularly, a lot of pressure is going to be put on the American government. I think this election will be decided on that regarding their support for Israel unconditionally, particularly financially and in terms of munitions. A lot of pressure is going to put on them. The next president of the United States, and people are thinking this is a guarantee that Donald Trump will be the next president or Biden will be the next president. I'm telling you, man, there's some other players out there. There's Cornel West, of course. Then there's also that lady, I forgot what her name is, who was with the Tea Party. I don't know if she's still with the Green Tea Party or whatever. But those two people, and there's some other people who are talking about ensuring that Palestine, a ceasefire happens in Palestine. Not only that, but also that the occupation ends and that there will be the pursuit to make sure the occupation ends in Palestine and that these people get back their lands and that, different businesses and organizations in the United Nations help to build back their country. And I think very strongly that a lot of people are looking at this and saying, no, this is not, they're not going after Hamas. They're not even interested in saving the hostages. They're interested in destroying this country so it's not livable. And everybody sees that now, right? So as a result of that, we have what we have. So Zack Snyder, always with pop culture, always with the pop vibe, but always with some sort of spiritual, mental, I think, and also physical lesson he's trying to teach people to empower them. He has really kind of helped drive this nail into the coffin when it comes to the perception of Israel, whether he knows it or not. He's on the right side of history. With Gal Gadot, they were pushing for the hostages to get the hostages back, which is, that's one of the themes. A lot of people in Israel right now are striking and calling for Netanyahu's head because he's not interested in the hostages, and they realize he's not interested in the hostages and getting the hostages back. And Gal understood how dangerous it is because Israelis generally, if the hostages come back, they come back dead. So, because they generally don't want any hostage speaking out and saying anything positive about their enemy. So, they've been, they had a hostage release before. So there was a precedent for that, an exchange of hostages. And I asked Israel this question. I'll ask anybody this question. Would a country who hasn't done any wrong to the other country release captives that other country has in their country in exchange for captives that the other country has with them? No, nobody does that. If there are criminals and you arrested these people on crimes, then you wouldn't be exchanging those people. You wouldn't do it. But the truth is, a lot of Palestinians who are in captivity have no charge against them. The charge is a broad charge of terrorism, and usually these people haven't done any acts of terror. They fought back, they resisted, but they didn't try to kill. They couldn't kill anyone, even if they wanted to. And most of them are being decimated. So the truth is that even these hostage exchanges that will happen, it's because Israel's wrongfully kidnapped in terror Palestinian children and women who protested throughout Palestine. So it's like when I hear these things, it's really it's so inflammatory. But I do believe in the Most High God. I know, He's not going to let this injustice just pass like that. But it's really at the point now where they're bombing Rafah, and I just have to talk about this. I'm sorry, I'm going to talk about it. They're bombing Rafah, and they're doing a lot of just atrociously disgusting things. Leroy Kong says, Zack Snyder is a pure genius, the greatest director ever. I don't know if he's the greatest director ever. There are a lot of great directors, but I'll say this about this Leroy Kong. I would say that Zack Snyder is a director you can't just look at face value. He's got that. He's always saying something. You know what I mean? Lyric Concerts, great live. Very, very well sold. All our lives are excellent. I pray for a better world. Facts. So unfortunate. Yeah. Well, the thing about it is you can always do something about it. And This is one of the ways how I like to talk about Rafah. I like to talk about Palestine, what's happening. I want people to have awareness because I know I'm in the right side of history. I know we're doing the right thing. It's just putting enough pressure on these people to isolate Israel, to isolate America, to get these people who are doing wrong things in power out of power, and to be able to bring about the peaceful situation that needs to happen. This genocide is horrific, and so many children's lives have been lost, and the people are suffering tremendously. There's a famine in there, and some people are on the verge of dying. We have so many sick people, and they're bombing right now cities in Rafah. They're bombing Rafah right now. And again, what ends are you looking to succeed, or what are you trying to do? You say you're going after Hamas. You say you're going to destroy Hamas. Okay, how's that going? Hamas is still around, and they're going to continue to be around because they have deep, deep, deep underground tunnels. You claim they have underground tunnels. So anyway, having said that, let me get into some more of what was being said here in this article. So the same goes for Saudi Arabia's bombing of Yemen, which was supported by Obama. We know exactly who is who in these Hollywood spectacles. We see the destruction of Palestine's olive trees in the same way as the devastating tree scene in Avatar. So Avatar kind of points to that, uh, how they destroyed the Palestinian, because the Palestinians had a certain a certain economy they used to have off of selling their olive oil from olive trees. They actually made money off of that. A lot of people don't know that the olive oil that comes from Israel is actually coming from Palestine and Palestinian vineyards. Charles Tondere Mudede, the Stranger's senior staff writer, is a Zimbabwean-born culture critic, urbanist, filmmaker, college lecturer, and writer. Mudede collaborated with the director Robinson Devor on 3 films, 2 of which, Police Beat and Zoo, premiered at Sundance, and 1 of which, Zoo, screened at Cannes. He's also written for the New York Times, CinemaScope, Tank Magazine, eFlux, LA Wiki, and Sea Dairy. So, if you wonder why Hollywood doesn't like Zack Snyder and call us, butts, and they call us the scum of the earth and stuff, it's because, if you look at the language, it's the same language that the Israelis are calling Palestinians. It's the same language that the U.S. senators who are bought by AIPAC are calling the protesters in all the universities. They're calling them Hamas, pro-Hamas, anti-Semitics. They're using all kinds of inflammatory language to keep the attention off of Israel and what it's doing. They're trying to use a decoy, and it's not working because the average person is not buying into it. And now we have families, we have parents supporting their children going to strike. We have strikes, and we have sit-ins, and we have all kinds of things happening all over the world, from America to Canada, to, Latin America to Japan, Korea. We're seeing strikes all over the world. We're even seeing it in London, the UK, Ireland, Switzerland, Denmark, even the European nations. People are not buying it. And we're talking about people who are white people who already have privilege. We're talking about these Ivy League schools where children, come from rich families, and they're, well-to-do people, and they're white people. We got Jewish people pushing on this. So it's not a thing about, oh, it's just the Arabs, it's just the Muslims pushing. Nope, you can't say that. It's now multiracial, multi-religious, multi-political. We got kids who, their families are right-wing people, but the kids are saying, fuck that. This is wrong, period. I don't care what nobody say. And so, we have children who were children of Zionists that are rebelling against the Zionist policy, and their eyes are open, and they're like, fuck this. I'm in the march, And I'm trying to say this to say it's all about humanity. And that's what Zack Snyder is all about. He's mostly about humanism. And because of that, he brings people together from different religious, ethnic, and social backgrounds. And this is very important for people to understand. That's what makes, because Zach is all interested in humanity. His films are about us, and even when how we treat animals, how we treat the environment, how we treat nature. Zach, I got a whole bunch of stuff to say, so I'm going to try and take it one step at a time because I have a lot to say today. So I'm going to try my best to get it all out there. But Zack Snyder said this. Hold on a second. Let me see. Where is it? One of this is it. No, that's not it. You know what? Let me just go on this. I'll find it on X. Okay. So, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm gonna find it. Um, Hold on one second, y'all. Surprise. You know what? I think it's. I can find it. Hey, what the hell happened? Huh. It's kind of weird. Oh, here we are. Okay. Yeah, look at here. See, Zach's all about humanity. You know what I'm saying? So on May the 30th of this year, which is the end of this month, Zach says, join me for a talk away the dark roundtable discussion with a panel of knowledgeable staff and volunteers from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, AFSP, as we answer the brave and meaningful questions you may have about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. Together, we can make a difference. Again, humanism. You see, this guy's a humanist. He says, "Be not afraid." You see a lady firing a arrow which has, a flame on the end of it. Okay, that lights the darkness, and you see the wheat on either side. This is food. Okay, and if you look carefully, this is like an eye, and on top here it says three atapeia. Now, atapeia is the Greek for peace, placidity, mental stability, calm. Okay, and evenness, balance. Okay, and that's very important. Now, you do remember in Zack Snyder's Justice League, uh, uh, Hippolyta, she took up the arrow of Artemis. She lit it on one end and fired that arrow to uh, the temple that was in Rome, I believe. And Wonder Woman came, Diana, and she used the arrow as a message to find out more information. So this is like lighting up the dark. It's kind of like an enlightenment, and it's saying, don't be afraid. And here it's saying this is peace or serenity or calm. Okay. All right. So wholeness is three. Three is wholeness, and it's the pinnacle. Calm. So this is mental health. All right. Talk away the dark. See, she's talking. She's by firing that shot. It's like she's talking. You talk out the darkness. Okay. All right. I thought that was really awesome. By the way, I want to show you guys quite a lot of stuff. I have a lot of stuff to say, so I'm going to try and I may not be the most coherent guy in the world right now, but I got so much to say because Zach has so many layers to what he does. Um, so, in short, right? If you look at my title right now, you'll see that you'll see that, well, you're looking at Army of the Dead. And the thing with Zack Snyder is there's so many different layers to what he's doing that, you know, there's always a lot to talk about. So I'm trying to cover all of this stuff here. So humanity is at the core of Zack Snyder's movies. Humanity, and it's his love for humanity that you see in almost any movie that you ever watch with Zack Snyder. And so here's something that I want to point out that some of you may not have noticed, and I personally see this all the time, so I just wanted to point it out. We're an hour, 10 minutes, and 40 seconds in. If you like what you're hearing or you like what you're seeing, don't forget to share it, like, subscribe, and you can also donate via PayPal. The link is in the chat. It's also in the description. So here's something I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to show you guys a couple things. Some of it you already know, but I'm going to also, even though you know it, it's like there's still a connection there that you probably don't know. Get into it here. So Zack Snyder says that Rebel Moon shares a universe with Army of the Dead. You guys knew that already, right? That's nothing new that I just said there that you don't know. But here's what you don't know. You don't know the nature of the connection, right? A lot of people don't know the nature. It turns out that Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is in a shared universe with Army of the Dead. During an interview with Total Film, the filmmaker revealed the unexpected connection between the two different movies. Army of the Dead is a pretty vast mythology that never made it into the movie, he explained. There's actually a character from Rebel Moon in Army of the Dead animated series that we never did. So the animated series, they never did it. They were supposed to do it, but they didn't do it. The unproduced Army of the Dead TV series was originally greenlit by Netflix back in 2020 and would have served as a prequel to Zack Snyder's zombie flick, Army of the Dead: Lost in Vegas, was supposed to hit the streaming service following the release of the original film and spin-off, Army of Themes. Unfortunately, the series was never made, so the crossover never happened. However, it would have seen characters held by another dimension entirely. At one point in the show, you go through a portal into another dimension, and there are characters in that other dimension that they come across, Zack Snyder explained. In Rebel Moon, they're in this bar, and one of the aliens is one of the characters from the animatic. So it's definitely a shared universe. Rebel Moon is more of a sci-fi space adventure, but that doesn't mean Army of the Dead doesn't have certain sci-fi elements to it. After all, some of the zombies are in fact robots. Without giving away too much, if you pay close attention, there are a number of zombies that are clearly not robots, he says during Q&A 2021, sorry. You see normal zombies, and then you see some robot zombies. Are they monitors that the government has placed among the zombies to monitor them, or are they technology from another world? What's happening there? All right, so let me go to yet another thing. Talk a little bit more about this. I'll tell you why, because I'm setting up for something. I'm setting up to say something. So let's get to it. We covered that already. Okay, so we go. Boom. Yeah. Zack Snyder confirms which Rebel Moon character connects to the Army of the Dead franchise. To get a little bit more information here, let me see if I can get it. Zack Snyder previously teased that his Rebel Moon and Army of the Dead franchise are connected. Zack Snyder clarifies that a Xanadite girl seen in Rebel Moon Part 1 Child of Fire provides this connection. The character originated in the Scrap Army animated show, comes from the planet that is the source of the zombie plague. All right? So that's a little breakdown right there. But I got more for you guys. Trust me, I got more for you guys. So if you guys like that, well, guess what? There's more. There's more. All right. Yeah. Okay, hold on a second. There's more. There's more, ladies and gentlemen. There is more. So unbiased Snyder fan on Twitter said this: how Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon are connected. In the Army of the Dead universe, Area 51 existed because of a portal to another dimension. Presumably, this portal was opened by the Kali. Now, the Kali, for those of you who did not see Rebel Moon, the Kali god was captured, and it was used by the Mother World to fuel the ships. So, for example, the King's Gate was fueled by this. And you see Kelly open her eyes and look at Korra, also known as Athalida. Korra is her real name. Athaliah was the name that the Mother World gave her through the reagent Belisarius. So here you see the guards guarding around this, and Callie, who is captured inside of the ship. This is the energy of Kali here. She's looking at Athaliah, aka Korra, as she puts bombs on Kali to blow up the ship. The guard is enslaved, put in the ship here, so the guard's probably released there. But this Kali here comes from, it is the one that kind of causes the portals to open. If you do remember, when you look, the Mother World ships are going through a portal that kind of looks like a what do you call it, like a vagina, right? It kind of opens over here, right? Well, it's Kali that opens those portals to be able to allow for movement into different direct dimensions, which is kind of related to like Cyborg and the mother boxes. Like the mother boxes, again, a female entity can cause interdimensional travel, through opening up portals known as boom tubes, right? Well, this is kind of like similar. Kali does that. Okay, and it's again a female force, okay, that allows interdimensional travel. And what's so interesting about this is that you get to see a lot of parallels between Zack Snyder's SnyderVerse, DC SnyderVerse, and this world. And I'll explain to you why I say that, because there's a lot more I want to say. But suffice it to say that this that you see here is Kali. That's Kali looking at Athaliah there. Now, Unbiased Snyder fan says a story revolving around the Xanadites. The Xanadite is this lady. She was in the bar, if you do remember. This is the Xanadite. Now, the Xanadites, if you look, they're just like Kali. Kali, they have this energy on them, you see, because Kali's world, where Kali was the god of the Xanadites, I believe, they have this energy about them, right? So this is the world from which the virus for the zombies came from. And the question is, those robot zombies, are those robot zombies actually, is that the force of Kali inside of them? And did they come from also from this alien world? We don't know. So anyway, the story revolving on the Xanadites, the alien species who the zombie virus originated from, would have been told in the animated series Army of Dead Las Vegas, pending approval to complete production. One Xanadite is seen in Rebel Moon Part 1 at the bar. So what it's saying is the Xanadites related to these guys. And the virus that infects the people that turn them into zombies comes from this world. Now, as you know, Zeus was a U.S. soldier. We saw the U.S. soldier who... No, we didn't see the U.S. soldier who turned into Zeus. But Zeus was a U.S. soldier who got experimented on, deleted scene from Army of the Dead. So we don't know who's against who in all of the story. Meaning, Zeus, now the whole place blew up, right? So we assume that Zeus is dead, but we don't know, right? We don't know if the zombies were all killed off or what really happened. But what we do know is it was like a loop thing going on. And this guy here, who sent this guy to apprehend the head of the queen of the zombies, to take it back to experiment on it. Obviously, he knows something about this whole situation. And you see here's some information on the zombies and all of this information. Yeah, we don't know if this guy is Zeus. This might be the Zeus guy. See what I'm saying? The soldier that was experimented on and all of that. So it's really crazy where it goes. We do know that whatever led to the human Xanadite hybrid allows them to reproduce. And here you see the reproducing the child there of Zeus and the queen. The nature of Omari Hardwick's speech about time loops, Tanaka, and how Dieter's mystic safes play a role, if true, is still a mystery. Oh, and there's also the robot zombies, most likely created by the U.S. government to monitor the zombie society that developed in Las Vegas. But I don't think so. Actually, when I look at the blue light in them, it looks very much like Kelly. So I think these are actually foreign zombies or some sort of, I don't know what it is, technology that somehow Kali is able to control or synthesize within them. I'm very interested in how that goes as well. Now, why that's interesting is because I'm going to say a couple things about Rebel Moon. I've noticed that there are parallels to the DC universe, which leads us into the Pandora's box, which is why I put the the actual um, the actual profile picture that I put up there. And this is where it gets even more interesting. So here we go. This is the relationship that we see here. But here's something else that's going to break the mold for you guys. It's going to be really great. So here we go. I got something for y'all ass. I got something that's really interesting. And this gonna break the mold. Because nobody's talking about this. Let's start off with this. All right, so this is like the derivative picture from Army of the Dead. And you guys remember they broke into the safe. And then when you look in the safe, there's all these tons of money everywhere. And there's guns on the side here, which is very interesting. All right, so you see the guns right there. You see the money, there's money everywhere, right? There's our little squad right there. And then when you go up into the corner here, we got some Snyder cuts, ladies and gentlemen. We got the Snyder cuts. The Snyder cuts are here. And when I thought about that, I was like, what? And it just crossed my mind that the Snyder cut exists in this world as it exists in our world, which means that there can be an overlap between Army of the Dead world, Rebel Moon world, and DC's Zack Snyder's Justice League. And some of you don't like to hear that. I even think Lord Crow J doesn't like that. But me personally, I love it. I love it. I'm going to tell you why. If, let's say that Zack Snyder's SnyderVerse gets sold to Netflix, now Zack Snyder can tie together the DC lore, the Army of the Dead lore, and the Rebel Moon lore. Right? So to me, that's really awesome, if you ask me, how the laws can interlap with each other. And I'm very intrigued to see what happens if this is just one little cameo and that's it. Oh, Zach never just does pointless cameos. So I think this is going somewhere. Now, where exactly that goes, I don't know, but it's still very interesting. And I want to see where it goes with that. And I'll tell you why. For several different reasons. But first, let me just show you this. If you guys don't know it, if you don't know, now you know. Okay, so here they pointed out these film racks are the same as these film racks here. It's the same film racks. It's the very same film racks. This is crazy. That's the Snyder cut in there. All right. Now, let me break down a couple things. I'll show you some similarities. And I think a lot of people started pointing out similarities in Rebel Moon. But let's start off with expansion. The Mother World, they destroyed their own world, and then they started expanding out because they used up all the resources in their world and started expanding out, conquering worlds and stuff. And that's like the history of the Kryptonians. You know what I mean? That's the story of the Kryptonians. They used to go on off-world explorations, and they did like they were exploring these worlds that are uninhabited. This never happened. The worlds were inhabited, and they were killing out everybody on those worlds, and they were colonizing those worlds, just like what's happening with the Mother World in the Rebelverse. So what I'm trying to say is Superman is the descendant of a draconian empire that, because the king died and the daughter of the king was trying to change the world into something else than a war world, you had the expansion cease because a rebellion happened. And the rebellion was successful against that empire. You know, it's like Zach's flushing out the Kryptonian story, if you think about it. And maybe the story is not truthfully told in its fullness. Like they saying, the world, the world of Krypton was destroyed, and you know, that's how Krypton ceased to exist. And they were talking about, they had, they didn't have any more natural births anymore in Krypton. But really and truly, it seems as though the expansion stopped because a rebellion happened to stop that expansion. And then the people started to exist. And apparently, what really is going on is in this story that the rebels conquered the Kryptonians. And as a result of that, and so Krypton probably was destroyed before. And they were, going around conquering worlds and shit. And then a rebellion happened and reduced the conquering. Now, how would Kal-El, for example, end up on Earth? Because one of those pods, the same pods that leave the ships and stuff, drop pods, he left with the drop pod. And if you look at the drop pods and you look at the ships and everything, they kind of correlate with Kryptonian looking ships and shit. And you look at some of the storylines, they correlate with the storylines. I was looking at also, we talk about suicide bombers and shit. Well, we saw one of the farmers on Veld commit suicide with the grenade or the little bomb thing to take down the oppressive regime. And then when you look at the parallels between the underground tunnel system that they developed to be able to ambush the enemy, this is symptomatic of the Viet Cong. They had underground tunnels too. We have the Palestinians. They have underground tunnels too. Everybody calls the Palestinians or the Hamas and the Houthis and Hezbollah. They call them terrorists, but they're not terrorists. A terrorist would go outside of home soil. They would go outside of where they consider their territory and bomb someplace that's not even remotely connected to commit terror, to make a statement. This is not what these guys are doing. These guys are staying on home soil. They're defending their turf. They're saying, you can't go past this line. They're not even going into Israel and dominating Israelis and Israelis, even though I think Hezbollah did in the north displace a couple of Israelis from the north now. The point I'm making anyway is this, that what is deemed someone's terrorist because they seem to be committing acts of terrorism on them is another man's freedom fighter. That's the point. And I just think that, this could be interconnected with DC, and Zach could tell even bigger story, And to me, I get excited when I see these things because for me, it's all about telling a story that has meat on it, like has bones on it, that when people follow the story, it has relevance, it has meaning, it has weight. And I think that's what Zach has been doing with his storytelling. And I don't give a damn about what the critics say and what their opinions are, because usually they're not coming from a place of sincerity and they're not coming from a place where they want to learn something. Notice how I evaluated the picture that James Gunn had on Twitter. I told you what I thought I saw. And if you look, there's no negativity towards James Gunn. There's none of that. I see what he's trying to do. And a lot of people today, they have biases and stuff, and they can't acknowledge the pros and cons of somebody. So, you listen to the narratives out there from these APAC collecting CIA reflecting people, and they're just on a witch hunt with Zack Snyder. They're not sincere because they're not willing to acknowledge what is good about what he's doing. Or if they do, they have a snide comment afterwards. So that's what I got for you guys. I am Christ, I am disciple. Once again, you can donate to this channel via PayPal. The link is in the description as well as going to be in the chat. If you guys want to chop it up some more with me, fine. I'm going to catch you guys later. I am Christ, I am disciple. I hope you guys had a good one. Just waiting for a minute and 30 seconds to come so I can shut this down. Until then, you guys have a good one, man. Peace of God be with you guys always. And remember, hate causes people to do some stupid stuff. Saul hated David, and he couldn't help but hurl a spear at him, even after he assured Jonathan he wasn't going to hurt David. And the point behind it is, when you are somebody with the skills and God-given gifts that God has given you, do not let other people shut you up. Do not let other people try to kill you, stifle you in any way, shape, or form. So that's what I got for you guys. They're trying to assassinate Zack Snyder's career, and it's only boomeranging back on them and hurting them more. Don't wish evil of other people. I'm going to catch you guys later. I am what you need. No, I'm not what you need. Sorry. I am Christ. I am disciple. I do a lot of what you need videos. You guys have a good one. Peace. Free Palestine.